Bitcoin keeps making all-time highs, and Misty and Mr. are still pushing on up. Where is that Nav Erosion? Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Misty, Mr. and Bitcoin, and we're going to check to see where they're at on the charts as Bitcoin made another all-time high. This thing is just becoming unstoppable, right? Love it, love it, love it. So because Misty has been increasing, that distribution rate that you see right here is going down, right? It was at around 75 yesterday. It's at 74.5 now. And that's just simply because that distribution payout of the last one is the same amount, right? That doesn't change, but the price does change. And as that price increases, then that distribution becomes a smaller piece of that pie. And that's why you see this distribution rate on the website go down, right? And we did a video about how that's calculated, as it all has to do with the distribution payout and the NAV. And we can quickly take a look at that just as a refresher, just to show how that's actually calculated. And we'll do that real quick right here. So the two items we need is the NAV price and the distribution that was paid out last. We know what that distribution is. That was $1.2382. So let's just go ahead and punch that number in. There we go. And this is that quick little calculator that I had put together on a previous video. But I just wanted to show how that's actually calculated. So I've entered in that distribution rate of that $1.2382. There are 13 payouts because this is paid out every 4 weeks, not once a month. Every 4 weeks. So therefore, there will be 1 month where it does pay out twice. And that month will be August coming up. So the next piece of information we need is the NAV. And we'll go back to the website here. We'll scroll right on down here and you can see the NAV being 2160. So we'll punch that in. Here we go, 2160, and let's just see what it calculates out. And it calculates to 74.52. So how close are we? Back to the website. Let's scroll all the way back up to the top and we got 74.52. So we are right on the money. So just wanted to show and refresh of how that's actually calculated. We have the 13 payments. We've got the $1.2382 distribution, and that's the last one that was paid out. And that is what will be used along with the NAV to calculate that distribution rate. So until we get a new distribution rate to enter into this cell here, the only thing that will change is the NAV price, right? So as that does change, so does this calculated distribution rate. And as this price does increase, the rate here shown will decrease. Now, if the NAV decreases and this does not change, then of course that distribution rate will increase. So don't get too upset when you're seeing this distribution rate right here decrease. That just means the price of Misty is going up. And that's a good thing. Because anytime we can get some price appreciation along with our distribution, I'll take it. So now let's just go ahead and jump onto the Webull chart and let's just see where Misty, Mr. and Bitcoin ended up today. All right, so here we are on Misty and we're looking at the actual chart here. And as you can see, we are getting close to what we had drawn in here, and that is our new resistance line. And we can move this line to a more precise line, and we can put it at the top of one of these candles right here, and we'll put it at the top of this one, and that high here was 22.22. So we can simply click the line, go in here to the settings of it, and we can type in 22.22 and hit enter, and there we go. Now we've got it setting right there on top of that line. as before, I just kind of eyeballed that top, right? So right now we've got it setting at that 22.22 here, and looks like for today it opened at 21.92. It went as low as 21.69. It went as high as 22.11 before closing at 22.07. Wow, that is wonderful. We got a 42-cent move on the day, and that's a 1.94% move. Now overall, we are still somewhat trading within this channel right here. But that's okay, because for MSTY, I'm only really looking for the distributions. So if it can trade sideways, I'm fine with that. If it goes up, I'm fine with that. If it goes down, I'm fine with that, as long as it doesn't go down too far, right? Because I don't want to necessarily want to watch MSTY erode away, right? I prefer it to trade sideways to up, and if it wants to go down slightly, or at least slowly. But so far, as you can see, it's been a crazy ride. This red line right here, that is the opening price. And that's where it did open at the very beginning. And that's at $20.38. And with us sitting at $22.07, wow, that's awesome. So I don't understand when I see comments about MSTY eroding away. I just don't see it. Now, if you want to break it down from distribution to distribution, there could be times where it did drop, right? But show me any stock in the stock market or ETF that hasn't dropped between dividend payouts or distributions, right? Nothing goes up forever. And as you can see, I'm showing 4 distributions right here, and these are the last 4 distributions on MSTY, and we're still looking at the actual chart, right? So these are the actual moves and the prices of MSTY. And as you can see, where we did pay out this one here of $1.33 from this distribution to this distribution, if it was eroding away, this candle up here would not be higher than this candle here, right? If it's eroding away, this candle here would have to be lower than the previous distribution point, meaning that you're getting paid out a certain amount, but the price of the ETF is not covering and being able to recover that distribution, right? It needs to be able to recover that distribution, or else it is indeed eroding away slowly and sometimes quickly in some of these, right? And then you look from this one here, all right? This one here paid out $2.37 up to the next one, $1.47, right? Now for this one, you can see there's the price here. And then what did it do? It went from here down to here, right? So this one here, did it recover? Well, you look right here. Nope, it did not, right? This one went down. Now, does that mean automatically this is eroding away? No, it means that it was just down. Eroding away would be a constant drop, and it's just stair-stepping down. Each time you get paid out, you get lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, right? I mean, that just makes sense. Whether you're for MSTY or against MSTY, you have to agree with that. If it's eroding away, you can look at the chart and you can look at the overall chart. And in this case, we can pull up a 1 year or even the full chart. And this is looking at the 5-year chart. And MSTY hasn't been out for 5 years. And each one of these candles are a week, right? And you can see right there is the start of it. And where are we now? Right over here, right above where we first started. So if you want to say even from the beginning to the end, it has not eroded away. Because if you deposited and invested $100 here and you didn't sell it, and that price is now higher than what it was that you bought it at, you could sell it immediately and make money, right? Would you make a lot of money? No. The price isn't that much higher than it was over here. So price-wise, is it a good investment? Well, no, not really. I mean, you got roughly about less than $2 from the beginning to the end. So keeping that round number of, say, $2 that you could gain over this long period of almost a year and a half, that's not too good. But what's different about MSTY is it does pay out those distributions. Now, you don't see them here because we're looking at the weekly chart. But if I flip it over to the daily chart, well, there they are. And we can zoom out a little bit, get it all on the chart right here. And there you go. As you can see, we started out right here at the bottom of that red line. We ended up currently, and we're above that red line. And like I said, all of these little D's right here, all of that is money being paid. And I hear the comment of, you're just getting paid back your money that you invested. Well, yes, I'm not going to deny that, but I do have to ask, what's wrong with that? Because if I own a stock and it does not have a dividend, and if that chart looks just like this, and I'm not getting paid back anything because there's no dividend or no distribution for that stock, what do I have to show for in the end? Well, I have about $2 of gains, right? I mean, it's the same thing. Just because this is MSTY, a high yield ETF, it's still going to be a $2 gain. And that is if you bought it at inception, right? Now that is saying that you did buy it back here. Now for some who did buy it up here at the top, has it eroded away? Again, if you just look at it at your perspective, then you could say, I bought it at the $46.50 and now it's at $22. So yeah, that price has eroded away. But again, I do have to say, pretend this is not MSTY and say this is any other stock. And you bought that stock at $46.50 and it's now worth $22. Do you say that it has eroded away or that the stock has just dropped $20 a share? And over that course, you've lost about 50%. And if there's no dividend that's paying out, then you just lost 50%, period. You got nothing to show for it except that 50% loss. You're still holding on to it, right? But if it is paying out a distribution or a dividend, just like this is, and you bought it here, and again, we're saying this is just any other stock, not MSTY, any other stock, and you bought it at $46.50, and it paid out all of these distributions here, or all of these dividends, and you can see that it's paid out $4.42, $3.08, $2.27, $2.02, $1.37, $1.33, $2.37, $1.47, and finally $1.23. You add all of that up. Yes, that is returning your capital. But what would you have if this was a regular stock? You would not have any of this, quote, return of your capital. You would just show a loss. And looking on your account, you'll still show that loss, but you will show that you have earned those distributions as well, right? So even though that is returning your money, it's at least returning your money. And you're not having to do anything for it. I didn't have to sell shares to earn that distribution. That distribution's being paid to me for just holding the shares. If this was a regular stock, I would be buying it at that $46.50. It would drop down to this. And like I said, no distribution or dividend. All I'm showing is a loss. And there's no gains in the dividends. So if you did buy it up here and it's sitting here now, and all you have earned is the distributions here, then yes, you would probably still possibly be at a slight loss. Because what you would have to do is add up all of these distributions. And I guess I could go ahead and do that just so that you can see. So I'll do that right now. Okay, so I have entered in each one of these distributions from this point right here. Right? That distribution right there. I'm saying that we purchased it at this $46.50, right? That we purchased it around that high point, and just to say that we did earn that distribution because that high point was on November the 20th, and this distribution, which would be the X date, was on the 21st. So you could have bought it the day before the X date and paid that $46.50 at the top. And then the next day, you would have earned that $4.42 of that distribution. And you would earn that one along with the rest of these here. So I've entered in each one of these into this calculator, and I've got right now the last one entered in, which is the $23.82. And once I hit enter on this, it'll tell us how much total distributions we've earned since purchasing it at, say, that $46.50. And that total amount of distributions that you would have earned is $19, and we'll round it to 60, right? $19.60. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take that $46.50 and we'll subtract off that amount of distributions that we just showed, being $19.60. And we'll see that we are at $26.90, right? So therefore, with that current price being at 22, you are still down, including those distributions, right? But that does not account for any other particular purchase of shares that you would have made from this point, right? You could have bought at different dips, right? And that would have only lowered your 46.50 current average lower, and therefore given you a lower number to actually subtract off your $19.60 from. And therefore, it is very possible you would be much closer to that $22 price share that Misty is sitting at right now. But that is not something that you could say for any other stock that you purchased it up the top here and it's currently down here, and if it did not pay out any distributions, you would not be able to say that same thing. So the fact that you have already recovered almost $20 of that share price that you paid, that's a great thing. And if it would continue and eventually you earn back all $46.50 of the initial purchase, or your average, right, then you would have gained all of your original investment back. And therefore, you would have your Misty paid off, and all distributions from that point on would be free and clear, not including any taxes, of course, but that's true for any distribution or dividend. So I had to talk a little bit about that Nav Erosion comments that I keep getting, as I do not understand what is meant by that, because I'm not seeing it for Misty. It is down from the high, but no one else talks about a stock eroding away except for these YieldMax funds, right? You always hear of price erosion, Nav erosion, or whatever, but if you are continually to earn those distributions, and if it would continue, then eventually wouldn't you get your money back? So it's just a thinker, right? But anyway, I think that's probably enough for now about the Nav erosion, but I just had to point that out, as yes, the price has dropped over time, but it's still paying out those distributions, which eventually what we're hoping for is to account and cover that Nav erosion. And I am doing that in air quotes for Misty, and in the end making money. So what did Mr. do today? Here we are on Mr., and as you can see, we broke that resistance line. Look at this. We were sitting right there on it yesterday, and then what did we do? We broke it and we stayed above it. That's a great sign. That is what we wanted to see. That line was sitting at 421.78. For today on Mr., it opened at 430.54, as low as 423.50, as high as 438.84, and then closed at 434.58. It had a 3.04% move on the day, and that equates to about $12.84. Goodness. Go, Mister. Love it. You can see that Bollinger Band is widening on out even further because it is shooting right past that Bollinger Band. We're getting good separation on the MACD. The momentum bar is increasing. Big volume for today. And let me rephrase that. Big green volume for today. Then we had our RSI, of course, going up. Super excited of what's happening right now. I do have a few shares in Mr., so I am able to capture those big moves on Mr., and Misty being my long-term income. It cannot capture all of those moves, but it will continue to move up as long as Mr. moves up, just not at the same pace. But that's okay because we're looking for distributions. That's what I'm looking for. Now, how about Bitcoin? Oh my goodness, check this out. We had that huge big green candle yesterday, and now look at this. We've got another green candle, and also note, we just made a new high. We've got a 118.9K for a new high on Bitcoin. We're currently sitting at 117.7. Love it. This is exciting, guys. We are in uncharted territory as there are no resistances above us. That does not mean that this will necessarily continue to move on up. It could start leveling off. It could come back down some. But who knows? This thing is on a rocket currently. It can just keep on going. And I've got no problem with that. How about you? Are you excited? Look at this. Look at that separation on that MACD. That is some nice separation right there between the signal and the MACD line. Love it. Our RSI 14 is only at 73. Now it is flattening off a little bit, but that's okay. We are still moving up, and that's a great sign. And I'm hoping for some excitement going forward for Misty. So what about you? Are you excited about the move on Misty and Mr.? And of course on Bitcoin, right? I know I am. I am so super excited. And if Misty continues to move on up, I think our next distribution could be a very nice one. But no guarantees there. So I know I did talk a lot about that Nav Erosion, but there is just so much out there that is talking about the Nav Erosion on Misty. And I just wanted to give my opinion and how I look at it, right? I don't see it the same way. Even if you're down on your play, you're still bringing in money through the distribution. You are possibly having a little Nav Erosion, and that's price erosion, right? The price of the stock or the ETF could be going down. It's flattened out now and started going back up. But again, that's just the price. We're not in Misty, or let me rephrase that, I'm not in Misty for the price appreciation. If I'm looking for price appreciation, Misty is not the right vehicle for that. If you're wanting price appreciation off of maybe a better move off of Bitcoin, maybe you're looking at Mr. for being the right vehicle for that. But even that, right? We've seen Bitcoin go up on a day and Mr. go down because Mr. goes and starts buying Bitcoin, right? And brings the price down. But it's like everything else. You got to build up those shares, right? So that way, as it's moving up, you're just making more and more money. So the people with Mr. are looking at it that way, if you ask me. They're looking at trying to build up as much Bitcoin as possible. And they do take the short-term hits whenever you see that big red drop and say Bitcoin went up that day. That is possibly what is happening. But in the long term, and if you are in Mr. for the long haul, then you have to understand that. And then you should be okay with a short-term price drop, because long-term it's going to make a huge difference if Bitcoin continues to move up. So I hope I provide a little bit of insight of my opinions of this Nav erosion, and I hope you can see that Misty, Mistra, and Bitcoin are moving up, and we are moving into uncharted territories, especially with Bitcoin. Love it, and I'm excited. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out.